Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to see you all. Thank you. I'm Vlad Kampov, and let's talk about the revolution of product engineering. All right. So I should start with the number that should keep you all terrified. 90%. That's the percentage of professional developers who are satisfied with their job. And that's based on the Stack Overflow 2024 developer survey that has been conducted based on 29,000 respondents. Not just extremely satisfied, just satisfied. If you dig deeper into that, 48% reported being merely complacent, and 32% were actively unhappy. Think about this for a moment. It does mean that 8 out of 10 engineers wake up every day to do work that doesn't fulfill them. Sounds like a lot. But what's interesting about it is there's a number of engineers, the subset of engineers who are striving in this environment. They are getting promoted faster by 22% roughly. They are earning 25 to 40% more. And they are the first people that got consulted by product manager about the new and exciting features. They're the ones who are getting pulled up into the room for the important discussion. And the thing is that companies are desperately searching for them, looking for them. So you would guess it, who are they? They're product engineers, obviously. And that's important to mention that they are not the product managers who code, and that they are not engineers who want to be product managers. They are engineers who think deeply about the product they are building and about why before how. Engineers who ask, what's the problem we are solving before how do we build it? My name is Vlad Kampov. I am a staff software engineer at Netflix. I'm working at the studio side of things, for media side of things, for content and business products. We are doing all of the exciting stuff that enables our creatives to bring exciting titles to you all. Second of all, in my free time, I'm a co-founder of a mentorship platform called mentor.sh that enables you to connect with exciting mentors worldwide. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, there's a QR code. I hope it works, honestly, because I don't remember. But what's exciting is that we are hiring at Netflix. Warsaw. In Warsaw, we do have engineering hub. We have a lot of open positions. You probably already learned about that in our Netflix booth at this conference, and I'm super excited about this opportunity to share this with you. Scan this QR code to learn about the open positions at Netflix, or come talk to me. I will be somewhere around the Netflix booth after my presentation. But today, I'm going to show you what it means to go beyond the code, to build a true product mindset. We will cover 5 core competencies that product engineers have, and that is what separates them from the traditional approach for the engineering. And we will learn about 3 market forces that are driving the shift. And what's important, I'll try my best to share the practical actions that you all can take to transform your experience so you can become a product engineer. So let's start with the product mindset. What does it actually mean? Let me give you a concrete example of a difference. So now picture a senior engineer at the fintech company receiving a Jira ticket, like a spec from their PM or whoever they work with, asking to build the new API endpoint for payment retries with the exponential backoff. And the spec has all the technical requirements, so you're good to go. So the traditional engineer says, got it. They're writing the clean code. They add the comprehensive tests. They probably address all their comments in the PR. They merge the PR, QAs probably test it, or they test it. They ship it, and that's done. They can start complaining about anything related to the programming somewhere on Twitter or X. But an engineer with product mindset does something a little bit different. They start by asking, wait, why do we need a payment retries really? What's the user problem? They would probably discover that the merchants lose 50% of legitimate transactions on temporary failures. They talk to 3 customers, they learn the real pain of the users. It isn't just the retry. It is that merchants has no visibility why the failure is actually happening. So product engineers probably would propose the alternative. Let's try to expose the failures in the API response. Plus, maybe let's build a dashboard showing the failure patterns. Probably the engineering effort is relatively the same, but the business impact is 10 times more. So both engineers probably wrote an excellent code, but one has built a better product. So that's the core difference. And let me be crystal clear about what the product mindset is not. It is not becoming a product manager. Absolutely not. Whenever I speak about this topic, I got the questions, so we don't need product managers at all now? And I always share the story like in Netflix, in my 2 or a little bit more years tenure in Netflix, I worked with many product managers who previously were movie directors. The guy literally has a page on IMDb. There's no way I can become a movie director to learn those much details about how movies are made. So you can become a subject matter expert until some level, but also product managers has their tools to make sure the business grows. So we need product managers. Be careful with that. So it's not abandoning the technical depth, because in reality, you need to stay technical, because you are the thought partner for anybody who wants to address the new feature, because that's how they value you. It is, somebody can treat it as you do more work for the same pay. And I don't agree with that, because in reality, your work can become more meaningful. And it is absolutely not a personality trait. There is a systematic approach to how product engineers think. So what product engineering actually is, it is thinking about what to build before how to build it. And going in front of myself, sometimes it is about what not to build at all, because probably it's not a good idea. It is understanding the users and the business context, about owning the impact beyond just delivering the code. It is about multiplying the value through decisions, or how they love to call it, shareholders' value. And it's definitely a learnable skill set. So let's talk about 5 core competencies of the product engineers. 5, let's say, personality traits or approaches to how you can think as a product engineer. I should say that earlier today on this stage we have Gergely Orosz, who studied hundreds of high-performance engineers at top companies. He, back in the days, identified 9 traits that define product-minded engineers. I'm super excited to be speaking on the same stage as the pragmatic engineer, but I want to focus on the 5 core competencies that I think are the most valuable. Let's dive into the first one. Let's start on the first competency, product thinking over the feature building. Again, asking why before how. Let me just grab the water. And now we'll talk about the best company in the world. You guess it. Netflix. Netflix in 2016. Our personalization team faced a very interesting question that sounded like a very purely algorithmic. How do we get members simply click on more titles. So a traditional engineer would probably try to tweak the recommendation algorithm. They would try to tweak the weights. They would try to add more features to make it more exciting for the user to click on the things. And they would probably run some A/B tests on ranking of some of the titles. But engineers on the team who did the thing started with the problem, why do members scroll past the titles they would actually enjoy, past the movies or TV shows that are exciting to them? So they partnered with our consumer research team, and they discovered something very interesting. Members make the decision in the 90 seconds time frame. So within 90 seconds of browsing, they are either making a decision and find something or just simply give up. The thing is, the human brain processes the image in 13 milliseconds window. And the members do not really read the description about the movies. So it means that probably they were making a split-second decisions based on artwork. So this insight shifted everything. Instead of rebuilding the algorithm, the team has focused on artwork. They discovered that artwork showing expressive faces performs way better than simply generic posters of the movies. Images featuring movie characters or TV series characters drove more engagement than artistic title cards. And the compositions also matter. The close-ups on the faces performed way better than simple landscape from the movies. And the result is interesting. A/B test showed 20 to 30% increase in viewing for optimized artwork. Same content catalog, same recommendation algorithm, and radically different engagement because they solve the actual user problem. The pattern here is very much consistent. Product engineers start with why before how. They validate the problems before building the solutions. So if you want to practice this first competency, there's an action for tomorrow for you. Next time you receive a spec, before writing any code, ask your product manager or project manager, what user problem are we solving? Can we talk to one user before we start building? Just one conversation will actually change how you think about the future. So let's move on to the second competency, user empathy and discovery. You got to experience their context firsthand. And here's the hard truth. Most engineers have never talked to a user. Based on the 2024 post-hoc analysis, only 23% of engineers have direct user contact, at least more than one per month. And yet, these 23% of engineers ship features with 2-3 times higher success rate. What's the reason behind it? Because they understand the context users operate in, not just the features they request. Here's the key. Observations beats interrogation. You gotta see what user do, not just what they tell you. So let's talk about another best company in the world, Netflix. In 2017, we had one of the, he doesn't work for Netflix anymore, we had director of product innovation named Cameron Johnson, and he was thinking about what to build next. The team has an exciting feature idea. Let's just build the buttons to scroll forwards or backwards by 10 seconds increments. You know, standard video player stuff. Probably every video player has it. But then they started look at the data. 15% of members were manually fast-forwarding within the first 5 minutes of the title. 15%, it sounded like a lot. There's definitely something in there. Now here's the key insight. They didn't ask users would they like the skip button. They watched what users do. Probably, if users scroll in the first 5 minutes of every title and such a big amount of users, probably they're just trying to skip the intro. They awkwardly trying to scrub past the intro and being too late or being not late enough to get over with the intro. So in there, a traditional engineer would probably build the general purpose solution, because 10 seconds scroll button forwards or backwards, it can work in all the contexts. Why do we care? But Netflix built something different, a single purpose solution, one button that does just one thing, skips the intro. And today, this button is pressed 36 million times a day. And accumulative, it saves 195 years daily for all the members. That sounds like a lot. Product engineers don't rely on what users say they want. They observe what users do. No user would have asked for skip intro buttons back in the days, but watching their behavior revealed exactly what they need. And you know what? Now probably every streaming platform has it. So to practice this second competency, ask your PM or customer success team, can I sit in one customer call this week? You can listen to them, but then also validate with the data how users perform, what they do with your product. And don't talk, just listen and take notes. Let's move on to the third one, business impact measurement. You got to measure the outcomes, not just outputs. There's a ruler, and that's how you measure success. Traditional engineers measure success by code quality, test coverage, performance, and the amount of bugs they introduce or not introduce into the product. Product engineers measure success by user behavior, business outcome that enable decisions, and decisions accelerated. Both matter, but only one determines whether you built the right thing. Let me show you what data-driven product thinking looks like. In Netflix, we do have experimentation platform. We run thousands of A/B tests yearly. But here's what makes our approach different from the typical engineering metrics. Probably a traditional engineer would build an experimentation platform focusing on how fast can we run tests, what's our statistical significance threshold value to feature toggle to succeed or A/B test to succeed, how many concurrent experiments can system hold. But the product engineers and on Netflix experimentation team, they measured something absolutely different. How many decisions can be better because of this platform. So they built the platform around a framework based on 3 metric types. Primary metric, the thing that must improve for the experiment to succeed. A secondary metric, thing that should improve or stay the same. And guardrail metric, absolute boundary that cannot be violated, no matter how good the primary result look. So this framework forces a hypothesis-driven thinking. Whoever drives the feature, they need to define the feature, let's say, in one sentence. We believe that the change will improve primary metric by the amount without degrading the guardrail. And if the hypothesis is wrong, we simply roll back, no matter how perfect is the code, how good the idea was. And what's powerful about this is that the ideas are coming from anywhere. Engineers, designers, executives, customer success team. The experimentation platform democratizes decision making, but also it holds everybody accountable to outcomes, not the opinions. speaking more about this, in reality, even senior leaders experiments fails regularly. So it means that junior engineer's idea could be the same by the success rate as senior leader. So the experimentation platform doesn't take the title into account. It cares about what data shows. So product engineers don't just ship code, they ship hypotheses and measure outcomes. So tomorrow, for you to practice this competency, pick one feature you shipped recently. Pull the data and observe if the user behavior have changed. And that's important that if you don't know, if it seemed not to be relevant, maybe it's also a sign. Maybe the feature you delivered didn't change everything and you just spent time of building it. I don't know. So start tracking the features. Pull up your favorite analytics tool from your company and observe. Cross-functional collaboration would be the fourth competency we are talking about. You gotta speak their language. Here's the secret about senior plus engineer roles. The code gets easier, but the people get harder. Product engineers don't just work with designers and PMs. They become fluent in their languages and earn their trust through demonstrated product judgment. Let me show you how Netflix actually operates. We have what we call, if you read the culture memo, it's publicly available rather in the internet. We have what it's called informed captaincy model. For every significant decision at Netflix, we identify an informed captain. One person responsible for making a judgment call. Here's what makes it work. The informed captain doesn't just make a decision in isolation. They need to do what we call farm for dissent. They are required to do that. They need to actively seek for any different opinion from anybody. And what's important, a junior engineer opinion or an idea could weight the same as vice president idea. Because, junior engineer might probably know the code base intimately. And also, another critical part is that manager practice context, not control. Instead of telling the informed captain what to do and how to do it, they provide the context, business goals, constraints, past learnings, and the strategic vision, direction. And then they trust informed captain judgment. At most companies, specialized teams create gates, but security review blocks the deployment, legal approves some launches, even the PR has the blockers before you merge to the production and bring the new feature to the user. At Netflix, all of these features are consultative. They inform you, they do not block you. The security team, for example, provide tools, libraries, and expertise, and maybe file a bug for some of the vulnerability. But it's up to you, the informed captain and the team behind, to prioritize this and make a judgment call. Either we fix it right away or later. And this only works because Netflix built trust through relationship, not processes. Experts collaborate with product teams early, share the context constantly, and build reputation by being helpful, not just by being gatekeepers. The same for experimentation. Data scientists are sitting in the brainstorm room with the team, with the product team, and they are not just the ones who are crunching the numbers and running the tests. So the pattern here and the catch here is that you don't earn this trust by declaring, I want to be more product-minded. You earn it by showing up with the data, user insights, and pragmatic trade-offs in your first few projects. So for tomorrow, for you to practice this, schedule a 30 minutes coffee with designer, PM, data scientist, sales, support, customer success team, whoever, and ask them How is it to work with engineers? Just listen, don't defend your role. This will open eyes to how your team is perceiving you and your role in an organization. And that might be a first point for you to start building that relationship. And let's move on to the last competency. End-to-end ownership. Again, owning the outcomes, not just output. In Netflix, we have what we called full cycle developers model. But that started back in the days, quite a long time ago. From 2012, in between 2012 till 2018, we had this transformation. Back in the days, our Edge engineering team was responsible for every service that is the first layer for our streaming platform. And the problem with that was that deployments felt like, walking through the sand. Debugging issues meant bouncing the hot potato from team to the team to figure out what's happening. And developers stayed away from the production as much as possible. Operation teams would band-aid over the problems rather than fix root causes. DevOps were deploying the stuff to production. So the feedback loops were broken. So the company looked at it, and we went back to the first principles and arrived at the philosophy: operate what you build. So here what it means in practice. The team that develops a system is also responsible for operating and supporting the system in production. Each development team owns deployment issues, performance bugs, capacity planning, alerting gaps, and partner support. Not a separate ops team, the same engineers who write the code. So teams that feel operational pain are empowered to fix it by changing their system design or code. They are responsible and accountable for both functions. Full cycle developers are expected to be knowledgeable in all areas: design, development, test, deploy, operate, support. They think like a software engineers, and SDET and an SRE, depending on what's needed. They ask questions like, how can I automate what's needed to operate this system, to make it reliable? What self-service tool will enable my partners to answer some questions without pulling me in constantly? And Netflix invested heavily in tooling to make this possible. There are tons of internal tools that make it possible. So the key insight here: ownership means you don't declare a win when the code merges. Your win or victory when the system is reliable and solves the user problem. So for tomorrow, to practice this competency, pick one feature you shipped in the past quarter. Set up a simple alert. It could be a Slack message, could be an email, could be whatever. Something that should be triggered if the key metric degrades or usage drops below the threshold. Just the act of setting up the alert will make you think differently about ownership. And when it triggers, you learn something new. So we went through 5 competencies just now. Now let's talk about why this matters right now. What I'm describing isn't new, really. Exceptional engineers were doing this all along, always thought about the product. But something changed. This pattern is now formalizing into an actual role. And let me show you how we got there. So back in the days, in 2019, the very same Gergely Orosz that has been on this stage has defined product engineers in the article or the book, I don't remember, the product-minded software engineers. It goes viral because it finally names what top engineers were doing all along, all the time. A vocabulary. suddenly people could articulate this type of work. And then, a few years later, somewhere in between 2020 and 2022, startups try to formalize this as a job title. So post hoc launches, we don't need the PM, engineers own the product campaign, and they actually start to hire product engineers. They call their developers product engineers. Then we have a follow-up by Vercel, Incident.io, Ashby. They adopt a similar models. They think that PMs and whoever might be a bottleneck, and engineers need to make a decision. They ask, what if engineers were the product people? And then right now we are somewhere at the tipping point, because right now we have 57,000 plus product engineers position open on LinkedIn. 80% search volume growth for the term since 2022. So what was a startup experiment is becoming an industry standard. So if you are learning all of this, you're not just learning the new skill, you're getting ahead of the industry shift that is already in motion. The engineers who developed these competencies 5 years ago are now probably senior staff, tech leads and founders. The one developing them today will be there in 5 years from now, probably. But why is this accelerating now, you ask me? There are three convergent forces, three market forces behind that. And one is very, very obvious. AI is commoditizing the code. Let me hit you with the numbers that should change how you think about your career. 25% of Google is now AI generated. 20 to 30% of Microsoft code is now AI generated, and 20 million developers are using GitHub Copilot. 90% of Fortune 100 have deployed AI coding tools, and analysts say that by 2030, 95% of routine code will be AI generated. What does this mean? Your value is no longer in writing synthetically correct code. Any AI can really do this. Your value is in knowing what to build, why to build it, and whether to build it at all. You remember the CrowdStrike incident in 2024. There was one buggy update that crushed 8.5 million Windows machines across the globe. Airline grounded, the hospitals went on the paper operation, and the financial losses exceeded $3 billion. So the code probably compiled. It probably passed all the CI/CD automated tests, every guardrail they had in there. But no one asked the product question, what happens if this fails? What is the blast radius? Should we deploy it to everyone at once? The technical competence without product judgment is a very dangerous skill at scale. AI makes you faster at writing code. It won't make you better at deciding which code to write. The second force is economic pressure that is flattening our organizations. In 2024, we observed more than 150,000 tech layoffs across 551 companies. In 2025, year to date, it was more than 80,000 technical layoffs across 171 companies. But it's not just layoffs, it is the global restructuring. Starting from 2023, Amazon, for example, mandated increase in IC to manager ratio by 15%. They target $3 billion in savings by flattening hierarchy. Same for Meta. They call 2023 or 2024 a year of efficiency. They put $4.2 billion in restructuring. They cut the middle management and they increase the individual ownership. And now 44% of US companies flattened in hierarchies in the last 2 years. With fewer PMs and fewer managers, engineers must fill the gap. Someone has to define problems, validate solutions, and make trade-offs, sometimes make the business decisions. And if that's not you, it means that somebody is fulfilling this gap. Engineers with a product mindset thrive in flat organizations because they know how to operate in that context. They don't need layers of management to be effective. And another force is that specialization doesn't really matter. There is a failure of hyper-specialization. For 20 years, the industry pushed specialization, pick the stack, and go deep. I started with the front end, I went deep with the front end, then I switched to Go, I went deep with the Golang. But so that worked with when the teams were large and the problems were siloed. It is breakdown now. The traditional model, this relay race from the PM to designer, to the front end, to the back end, and the QA to DevOps, doesn't really work anymore because each handoff loses the context and introduces the delay. It encourages you to be siloed in your specialization. So the industry is actually shifting to a solution that T-shaped engineers, deep expertise in one area, let's say front-end, back-end, ML infrastructure, plus broad competence in product thinking, user empathy, business understanding, and data analysis. This is exactly why companies are now explicitly hiring for product engineers. Job descriptions literally say it. Exceptional engineers always acted this way. Starting from 2019, it has been named, and now companies are just formalizing the job title. So, to continue with that, we just covered a lot with the competencies and the market forces. And now let's move it towards what can you do now? Because fundamental shift is now how career for engineers works. So let me give you a concrete prioritized action plan you can start tomorrow. Now I got to sell this to you. In day one, ask your PM, can I sit in one customer call this week? Don't prepare, just listen. In day two, pull the data on the shipped feature you recently did. Did anything change? If not, it also the information. Day three, read one support ticket. Don't dismiss it as a bug. Try to understand what is the user problems we are trying to solve. Day four, schedule a coffee with somebody not from the engineering, designer, PM. Try to set up the relationship. Try to kick off the relationship. And day five, in your next stand-up or code reviews, add one sentence about why you are doing something. The user problem, not just the technical approach. And there's more you can do. In your next technical design doc, add the section about the user problem and expected outcome. Before implementing any feature, write down if this works, what metric will change, and by how much. And try to open the analytics dashboard once a week and see if anything changes. If you do the things consistently for 90 days, here's what will change. In week 4, your PM will start asking for your input earlier. At week 8, you'll propose a feature based on the user data. At week 12, in your next performance review, you'll have concrete examples of business impacts, not just the technical accomplishments. And in fact, this is something that you already can put in your CV because this is what people are looking to see at your CV. And 1 year from now, you'll be the engineer PMs consult the first before writing specs. You'll get invited to strategy meetings. You'll see the opportunities for impact where others miss them. And when you interview at the companies that value product engineering, you'll have real examples. The most important thing there, start small, pick just one action from the week one, and do it. Build a habit. Because every day you delay is a day you could have been building a product mindset and instinct through the practice. So here's what I believe. A lot of dissatisfaction comes from feeling like a code robot. I started with saying that only 19% of engineers were satisfied, and I think this is why. It is very annoying and boring to just implement what somebody wants you to do. Building a product mindset gives you an agency. It makes your work meaningful because you're solving the real user, real human problem, not just shipping a feature. And the opportunity is very real because market is speaking. 57,000 plus open positions, basically named product engineers, 25 to 40% higher compensation, and what's important, more interesting and impactful work. This is not some distant future. This is the shift that's already happening. Companies are already hiring the engineers with the product mindset. And this is exactly the missing puzzle for the engineers in the AI era. Because as I said, AI can generate the code perfectly. It can do whatever is in the spec. But AI cannot decide what to build. It can only tell you how to build it. So it means that in the AI era, you can build the wrong thing faster and more beautifully. So I think the future belongs to engineers who think like product people. And the catch is in there because actually there are lots of people who are waiting for the permission to think about the product. They want to somebody give them this title and tell them it is their job to care. If anything, I'm the one today, so I allow you to become product engineers if you want. You can now start thinking about that and be better at your job and have more meaning in what you do day to day. Don't wait. A product mindset isn't a job title. This is the way you think. And you can adopt this mindset tomorrow, regardless of your current title, company, or role. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one action from today's talk. Coffee with a non-engineer, sitting in one user call, whatever. Do it this week. And if you do, please send me a message on LinkedIn. Tell me what you learned, what you did, and how it impacted your day-to-day. Because going beyond the codes isn't just about the career. It's about doing the work that actually matters. And the revolution isn't coming. It's already here. I should repeat the QR code about the fact that we are hiring a Netflix in Warsaw. So please scan this if you want to join me on our journey to entertain the world along with the product mindset. Please come to our Netflix booth at this conference and get in touch with me personally. There's a LinkedIn handle and my personal sort of the page. And on this note, thank you so much.